pain fast with Sensodyne Rapid Action for clinically proven relief in 60 seconds.
Angeteremsha bei ya chakula ikuje chini, alafu mambo yengine angalie baadaye.
Most of the constituency have not received the allocations of CDF.
National government can borrow. They are able to get support from all over the world, while counties are limited.
We want to shrink down on tax expenditure, but have something uniform that affects everyone.
We are going to lose revenues to the tune of 49.5 billion shillings.
In another 2-3 months, the Treasury will realize that they made a mistake on this one.
The funds belong to the people.
I can say now, if you go to the Mara, you'll have an exclusive game drive. The best scenery ever.
Sisi ni watu wanategemea wasungu. Tunashona.
With the coronavirus, tourism disappeared through the window. All the lodges, camps, tourist facilities, safari services just collapsed.
Kwa siku nilikuwa natengeneza hata kama 5,000 hivi. Penye hatuna wasungu, tunategemea msaada.
Leo tuko manyumbani wote kwa sababu ya coronavirus.
There has never been a time like this in the history of the Masai Mara Game Reserve.
Mumekaribishwa. Mujisikie mko nyumbani.
Huyu ni kama chakula kitu.
Niko na njaa. Haya ngoja.
Oda. Hapa tunakula mzima. Malenge. Sizile ndio ungetupatia kuliko hii.
Ile ni ya wageni wangu wanakuja.
Lazima tuchore auntie. Bela lala.
Oi. Nini tena?
Niambiwa akifanya hivi unampatia kitu tamu.
Selector, bigger, tasty, and healthy. And now Selector comes with free Choco Primo drinking chocolate for a limited period of time.
Ile utamu iko hapa, watafurahia sana.
As we battle COVID-19 and adjust to life's new normal, the University of Nairobi encourages you to pursue your career development goals. Applications are ongoing for the June and September 2020 programs for diploma, bachelor's, master's and PhDs in all our campuses with online classes available. Prevent the spread of COVID-19 by following the government health guidelines. The University of Nairobi is a world-class university committed to scholarly excellence.
Niko sawa. Ni venye nimetoka clinic na baba Brenda.
Mume wako anakubali mwende hospitali pamoja? Kwangu hata nimlipe, hauwezi kubali.
Ilibidi twende na yeye, nipimwe. Yeye apimwe. Kama kuna HIV, nipewe dawa ndio mtoto asipate HIV.
Wanaume wenzangu, kuandamana na mama akienda clinic na pia kujua hali yako ya HIV ni muhimu. Inaonyesha unamjali na pia unajali mtoto wako mtarajiwa. Je, unajijua?
Unapoendelea kujikinga kutokana na HIV, tafadhali zingatia taratibu zote za serikali za kujikinga na virusi vya korona.
Afya bora, maisha bora. Jipime, jiinue.
Pembe Flour, your most trusted quality brand for over 3 decades, has a new look now. This new pack is available in all leading supermarkets and outlets. It's still the same flour. Great taste, so you can cook and bake all you love with Pembe Flour. Pembe yangu ni poa.
This is NTV.
Well, in less than 24 hours, the Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury, Ukur Yatani, will be wielding the symbolic briefcase and stepping into the precincts of Parliament to lay bare how he intends to spend your shillings to lift you out of a deep, dark hole sunk by the silent enemy ravaging the world at present. But as Kenya's master of the coin outlines his debut economic blueprint, the national echelons of power are scratching their heads on just how to finance such an ambitious budget. In the backdrop of reduced economic output and people looking back at them for help, reduced taxes and many social security initiatives later, more is still sought. Team Coverage Wednesday crunches the recovery budget numbers with a keen eye on where you, the taxpayer, should be alarmed and where you should rest easy, at least for 1 year. Hello and welcome to NTV Tonight, this Wednesday, the 10th day of June 2020. Ahead in this broadcast. Tonight, the curve is still rising and the healthcare system could soon be overwhelmed.
Today, we are launching our home-based isolation and care guidelines.
A glimmer of hope as Kenya records highest number of recoveries in a day.
We have discharged the highest number of patients in a single 24-hour period. We have discharged 175 patients.
Also tonight, jitters from false results could soon force the government into action on private laboratories testing for COVID-19.
Those institutions will be required to put in the right corrective measures in order to continue to enjoy the approval that they have from the ministry to conduct these tests.
Nairobi Hospital and Lancet Kenya are still standing by their conflicting test results. Plus, the nation waits with bated breath for Yatani's plan on spending your hard-earned trillions.
Honestly, when I received the news of pay, I was very excited. However, when it actually came down to it, it wasn't as impactful as I was hoping it would be.
We tell you when you should be alarmed and when you should be excited.
Something must give. The government is not going to meet their recurrent expenditure, and the first culprit should be employees.
The recovery budget on Team Coverage Wednesday. And taking advantage of the coronavirus pandemic, now hundreds of girls have been subjected to forceful female genital mutilation.
COVID-19 has turned like people's lives upside down. The parents cutting their girls off so they can be married off so that they can fetch dowry.
Live from the Nation Centre, this is NTV Tonight with Ken Mijungu.
Good evening. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Flora Atieno. Let's bring out our team real quick. Our business editor, Julian Samboko, leads the business reporters tonight of Lillian Carey and Alex Mwangi. They're live from the Nation Centre. Olive Barrows is live with me right here in studio. Live from the county of Nakuru is Bridget Ngana, while Melita Oletenges is in Nyeri. And that's our team coverage in a flash. They'll be joining me in a little while. And of course, we'll be bringing you all the numbers, the global numbers for the coronavirus infections in a few. But first, let's begin with our top story tonight. And tonight, the Ministry of Health has discharged some 175 from various health facilities, raising the total number of recoveries to 1,048 and providing a glimmer of hope. Now, the number of infections in the last 24 hours are slightly lower than what we have seen in the last few days, 105. Now, the new infections now raises the total caseload in the country to 3,094. The 175 new discharges take the total number of recoveries to 89. One more person has also succumbed to the disease right here in Nairobi, and our death toll is now just slightly under 90. Nairobi County has the highest number of new patients at 43, Mombasa 11, Busia 18. Now, the alarming rise in infection is likely to burden the healthcare system, and as Seth Olale now reports, the Ministry of Health has rolled out a new home-based program for asymptomatic patients. And of course, that story by Seth Olale will be coming to us a little bit later on, but let's move on as we wait for Seth to be ready. The Ministry of Health has threatened to revoke the license of laboratories that continue to give controversial COVID-19 tests. This is after 2 cases were reported of patients who had each received 2 conflicting results from 2 different laboratories. None of the institutions involved in the testing quagmire has admitted any fault on their part.
The COVID-19 mass testing has become a subject of scrutiny in the last week after it emerged that there could be false results posted by the institutions charged with the responsibility of conducting the tests. 2 patients tested positive at Lancet Laboratories. A day later, they tested negative, one at Nairobi Hospital and the other at Kemri. On Tuesday, a spirited Dr. Ahmed Kalebi defended the results done by Lancet, claiming that positive results supersede negative ones. He insisted that there is no such thing as false positive results.
I don't think it's false positive. I actually think that they're false negative. And I can swear that by the Quran and have a gun put on my head because we checked everything. And if we check something and we find a fault, we're the first people to admit, because these things happen.
The Nairobi Hospital CEO, Dr. Alan Pamba, also defended the tests done by his facility. He maintains that the highest level of professionalism is guaranteed for anyone who seeks their services.
The Nairobi Hospital, as a matter of policy, doesn't comment on individual client test results. We're also not in a position to offer an opinion on test results carried out anywhere else other than here. We stand by the test results that we give our clients. We have all the confidence in them.
Kemri, on their part, sent a statement also setting the record straight on their results, claiming, and I quote, Kemri is yet to receive any formal complaint from any quarters regarding the allegedly discrepant COVID-19 result. The institution does not serve walk-in or drive-through clients and that they only work in partnership with the Ministry of Health on samples collected from designated sampling facilities. The institution further said, it is imperative for this allegedly discrepant result to establish if the same sample was tested by all 3 facilities including Kemri and whether the sample was transported and stored following established protocols, as these factors can affect the final outcome. End quote. It may be difficult to determine which results were correct, and it seems the Ministry of Health has another headache.
Our approval of such facilities to be able to conduct these tests is based on a series of assessments of their capacity to be able to produce quality results repeatedly.
And now the ministry intends to take on a more hands-on approach, but this will come with some consequences.
Those institutions will be required to put in the right corrective measures in order to continue to enjoy the approval that they have from the ministry to conduct these tests.
What the medics in all the 3 testing facilities agree on is the importance of having the tests done, encouraging Kenyans to get tested, if only to know their status. Charity Mwangi, NTV.
Well, let's take you to our top story tonight. And the Ministry of Health has discharged some 175 from various health facilities, raising the total number of recoveries to 1,048 and providing a glimmer of hope. Now, the number of infections in the last 24 hours is slightly lower than what we have seen in the last few days. Here now is Seth Olale with that report.
Hundreds of asymptomatic COVID-19 patients, who represent 78% of confirmed cases in the country, will be discharged from isolation centers to continue with their treatment at home. This is after the Ministry of Health launched the home-based care guidelines to be strictly observed by both patients and caregivers. Patients eligible for home-based isolation must, among other things, be tested and confirmed COVID-19 positive from an approved laboratory, be asymptomatic patients with mild symptoms, have suitable, well-ventilated spaces for home isolation care, stable enough to receive care at home, appropriate caregivers available at home, separate bedroom, toilet and bathroom, access food and water. Both patient and caregiver must have access to PPEs, that is, face masks, gloves and thermometers. No visitations, no other sick patient around. The home-based isolation care will be maintained for at least 14 days. Patients with worsening conditions to call 719 or send a short message to *719#.
And herein, we will also be drawing upon the Nyumba Kumi initiative in such settings, for they certainly have a role to play in supporting the care in the community. To succeed, the Ministry of Health appeals to non-governmental organizations, for they are very much involved and work at the community level, as well as others and well-wishers to partner with us in this fight against COVID-19.
At least 781 patients are admitted at various isolation centers in the country, with 7 in critical condition.
We have over 85% of our patients leave ICU. And therefore, this shows how good and how effective our healthcare workers are in our facilities. And we will continue thanking them for their effort and for all that they are doing.
A meeting of the national and county governments convened on Wednesday by President Uhuru Kenyatta at State House, Nairobi, resolved to safeguard Kenyans from the adverse health and socio-economic impact of the virus by establishing a national 30,500 isolation bed capacity medical center within 1 month. Kenya is the first country in the region to launch the home-based care guidelines. The success of this particular program will depend on individual responsibility as well as discipline. Seth Olale, NTV, Nairobi.
Right, away from that, hundreds of teenage girls have undergone female genital mutilation in West Pokot County since the COVID-19 pandemic started, according to authorities and activists. With closure of schools, parents have reportedly coercing their girls into the dreaded and unlawful cut so as to marry them off in exchange of dowry during these difficult times. Rose Wangoi reports.
Female genital mutilation has yet again reared its ugly head in West Pokot County. The outbreak of COVID-19 has raised the spectacular increase of FGM. The closure of schools has also created a conducive environment for the illegal practice to continue.
The girls are idle at home. There's a lot of uncertainties. People are not sure when this pandemic is going to end. So there's also misleading information in the villages that this COVID-19 will never come to an end. So people should cut their girls and marry them off. People cannot afford food. So it's also another source of income. So the girls have to be cut so they can be married off so that they can fetch dowry.
Over 500 girls in West Pokot have gone through the cut between March and June 2020.
Wasichana hapa na wamama walienda msitu hii ya South Forest. Wakaketa wasichana, tuka identify wachache. Mwenye tulifuata kuwasika na kupeleka kwa polisi.
We've had Tapach ward as the leading county, as the leading ward, with over 300 cases of FGM. There's an estimate based on the reports we're receiving from the ground.
A 12-year-old girl from Tapach ward is fighting for her life at Penguria County Hospital after undergoing the cut on 6th June.
Because we know that the girls are in the villages at the moment who are suffering, who need urgent medical attention, and they are hiding because they fear that they may be arrested.
The Anti-FGM Board and non-governmental organizations have started a 7-day campaign in areas deemed hotspots.
La msingi mno naomba kuwe na goodwill ya community nzima, ndo hili jambo litaweza kupigana hadi mwisho. Na pia nitoe onyo kwa wale ambao wanashiriki katika jambo hili zima kwamba sheria ipo.
Since the outbreak of COVID-19, the government ordered charities to shut rescue centers as they did not comply with social distancing measures, leaving many girls unable to escape communities where they were at risk of FGM. Rose Wangoi, NTV.
Very unfortunate indeed. Let's now turn our attention to our team coverage discussion tonight on the anticipated budget to be unveiled tomorrow, Thursday. Now, first out is our business editor, Julian Samogo, live from the newsroom. Julian, this budget is key because it informs the plans out of the difficult economic situation, is it?
That's absolutely right, Ken. You'll realize that over the last few months, the word stimulus has almost become a buzzword as far as Kenyan parlance is concerned. In March this year, the government unveiled 32 billion shillings worth of a stimulus package. Now it's talking about 53.7 billion shillings worth of a stimulus package post-COVID. The standard way of looking at the effectiveness or the sufficiency of a stimulus package is to look at it relative to the size of the GDP. Now, if you have a 9 trillion shillings GDP on one hand and about 86 billion shillings worth of stimulus package on the other hand, do the math and get the sense of whether this is adequate or not. But before that, let's take a look at the report I filed.
One of the key expenditure proposals in the budget is some 53.7 billion shillings to be spent on initiatives aimed at lifting Kenyans out of the prevailing difficult economic situation. Add that to the 32 billion shillings announced, and the total recovery amount is 86 billion shillings. Analysts say that whereas this amount may be relatively small compared to the extent of Kenya's total wealth, the interventions are timely and will play a pivotal role in providing a buffer from the ravages of the pandemic.
The quickness with which Kenya has responded to the pandemic by unveiling the first economic fiscal stimulus plan and now the second economic stimulus plan for the size of Kenya's economy is comparatively higher than its peers, both in East Africa and the wider Sub-Saharan Africa region.
In the 8-point economic recovery program is some 4.5 billion shillings to be spent on the supply of farm inputs targeting hundreds of thousands of small-scale farmers and assisting the horticulture sector access international markets. The target is to put money in the pockets while planning ahead for a possible food shortage in the face of a pandemic.
But in terms of what we could see more that the government doing is widening the social safety nets and making sure that these targeted interventions are actually going to the vulnerable households. One way of doing this is make more interventions towards the informal sector and the agricultural sector, because these two sectors would have wider reach.
But while the plan may be appealing, the actualization of it remains a headache for the government. Ukur Yatani faces a daunting task in raising money to finance the ambitious budget. And with declining economic output, the solution might be what Kenya is already too familiar with: additional loans. But we are already in debt distress, at least according to the International Monetary Fund.
We also know that the government is trying to maintain a very delicate balance between spending and also a medium-term debt path that is sustainable. Also, a prudent fiscal framework. But in terms of what we...
Some of the institutions expected to receive high allocations in the 3.22 trillion shillings budget include the Teachers Service Commission with 266 billion shillings, the National Treasury at 117 billion shillings, the Defence Ministry at 115 billion shillings, and the Ministry of Health at 111 billion shillings.
Now, this stimulus package definitely has to be financed by taxpayers, but with the economy depressed and tax revenue subdued, we definitely have a head scratcher in terms of how this will be done in the next financial year, as Lillian Carey explains. Lillian.
Julians, the difficulty in financing this multi-trillion shillings budget is compounded by the fact that collections from taxes will be reduced significantly as a result of the tax reliefs Kenyans are currently enjoying. But recovering the lost amount is as certain as death and taxes.
A casual Wednesday morning and Catherine Minor is wheeling the cart at a local supermarket, shopping for her household. A month after the government introduced a raft of tax relief aimed at cushioning Kenyans from the economic challenges brought by the coronavirus pandemic, many like Minor have been enjoying a reduction in value-added tax in the hope that the margins will trickle down.
The relief I've gotten is, I'm seeing from my receipts, has only probably saved me 100 shillings because everything has been reduced by 1 shilling to 2 shillings for the things that I wanted. And so I don't feel like I've really been impacted much.
The reduction of value-added tax from 16% to 14% is reflected in the supermarket shelves.
For us, Naivas, whatever we did was so immediate. The pronouncement was made today, and the following very night, we were spending the whole night here changing the prices and upgrading our systems to conform to the government regulation.
But while this is a relief, its full effect is difficult to enjoy in an economy that was already struggling even before the pandemic and the cost of living rising.
When I still go home, I still have to buy things like gas, I still have to pay for electricity, yet those things have gone up. I wish I was receiving more tax relief for those items.
Then there's the reduction of pay-as-you-earn amounts from 30 to 25%, a 100 tax relief for persons earning up to 24,000 shillings a month, and a reduction in corporation tax.
Honestly, when I received the news of pay, I was very excited. However, when it actually came down to it, to the cost of living, to all the things that I need to survive, it wasn't as impactful as I was hoping it would be.
Items which were zero rated, they became taxable, and items which were exempt, which were zero rated, also were made exempt, meaning that the impact is almost zero. PAYE, it's only incentive that stands the test of time, because the government gave the incentive and did not use any joker or a card to take back.
But these reliefs come at a cost. Experts say they will definitely create a reduction in tax revenue for the government to the tune of 172 billion shillings. That is a significant amount which will still be borne by the taxpayer.
Something must give. The government is not going to meet their current expenditure, and the first culprit should be employees who basically are not fully utilized.
But while many enjoy the spoils of these reliefs, others are worried about what will happen once this is dispensed with and it's time to go back to normal tax business. The possibilities are too difficult to contemplate for a population already choking from overtaxing.
You cannot press the taxpayers more. We only have around 4 million people who are paying taxes against the 19 million voters. The only thing you can do is to move that 4 million to levels which are about 7 million, so that at least you expand the tax bracket, increase by maybe 2%. But once you increase the threshold like over 5% in terms of that particular person paying more taxes, then it can be a revolution, so to speak.
But if there is one thing that is as certain as death and taxes, is that you will be footing the budget deficit one way or the other.
Balancing the budget comes in the shape of reduced foreign exchange. As Bridget Ngana brings us that story. To you, Bridget.
Thank you, Lillian. Well, exporting fresh-cut flowers and agricultural produce is no longer fetching billions for the country as it used to, due to various reasons brought about by this pandemic. Now, the industry is struggling and the government is losing a lot in tax revenue. For more than 3.5 decades, Osirian Flowers, headquartered in Naivasha, Nakuru County, has championed the growing of fresh flowers for export to the international market. Their sights were set on cashing in on the peak season this year until a disruptive global pandemic visited the world, causing a dip in production and sales.
Our capacity of production is about 700,000 stems to 1 million stems a day. Now we are barely able to export between 200 and 250,000 a day, mainly because of the limitations of the freights, but also, of course, there's been other things, weather, pest and disease pressure, etc. But freight has actually played a very, very big role.
One can only produce according to demand, and that demand from the global market has been shrinking.
The close down affected most of our sales. And also through the auction, they were not doing a lot, so we had to stop selling because we had to throw at the farm level.
We usually at full house have 4,500 people. We are currently operating at 2,000 full capacity. So of course the first casualties have been the people. Secondly, of course, the revenues of a business. We have obligations, of course, across in the environment, which now we We do not know.
In March, a bulk of Kenyan flowers were disposed at the Dutch market in Netherlands after going bad due to lack of buyers. For an industry that contributes billions of shillings to the Kenyan economy and raises billions more in taxes to finance the budget, this loss will indeed have huge ramifications for the economy. In 2018, the export of horticultural and agricultural produce fetched a whopping 153 billion shillings for the economy, according to the Fresh Produce Exporters Association of Kenya. In 2019, the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics reports that the country fetched some 144.6 billion shillings from the sector, 2/3 of which came from the flower industry. It is because of this great significance that the government has allocated some 1.5 billion shillings to sustain the horticulture industry. The industry players say this is welcome, but it is not enough.
The flower industry across the country, if given the support and fully utilized in terms of subsidy, it can really boost the country because it's having a lot of workers, and also it is giving the country a lot of revenue in terms of billion.
To be sincere, I don't know who are sitting in that round table advising the president on stimulant and as far as agriculture is concerned, because as you have seen this kind of investment and setup that has employed 7,000 people that are cultivating on 500 hectares, not acres, hectares. That's about 12,000 acres. Those are the guys who should be the frontiers. They sit there with the president because they're the wearers of the shoe. They know where it hurts. And this is not the time for the government to sit in their offices and come up with a budget. It is a time to go to the field and ask those people, what do you think? Where are we? Hands on.
And lessons have been learned, although in the most difficult way.
One of the biggest things we've learned from this COVID situation is that we are highly dependent on freight. But I think this is where the government can come in very handy and say, for example, that they are investing in cargo flights, particularly with the knowledge that a lot of fresh produce goes to the north from this country, not only flowers, but vegetables, etc. So I doubt that individual private entities will be able to do this, but I think that the government can actually invest in cargo flights, particularly for calamities such as this one.
The flower industry alone directly employs about 150,000 people, and by extension, 1 million other people along the value chain. Yet, thousands of these direct beneficiaries have been relieved of duty. Losing their jobs in this sector end up joining the scores and millions of Kenyans who have had to look to the government for assistance. Melita Oletenges looks at how we are cushioning the vulnerable. Hi Melita, and how is Nyeri?
Among the social security programs targeting those heavily impacted by the current economic crisis are weekly stipends to the poor and monthly thousands to the elderly. The government says it plans to spend up to 10 billion shillings on this.
At the home of Lucy Wangare Karaoke in Nyeri County, the only source of income is the government stipend of some 1,000 shillings sent every 7 days. Little as it may be, some recipients are glad for it.
Naona nasaidika. Hiyo pesa inanisaidia sana. Kwa sababu naona masiwa, naona uga kutoka kwa hizo pesa. Sikukuwa na kazi nyingine nilikuwa nafanya. Kwa hivyo nimeshukuru serikali yetu kuu ya Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta.
A few meters from Lucy's, we meet Susan Waithiegeni. Susan has started a business with the stipend she receives from the government.
Naweka kitu kidogo kile napata, nawekelea, naenda nachukua mizigo ingine. Kile kingine kinakuja, naenda naongelea soko, sasa inakuja juu.
Cushioning vulnerable Kenyans is becoming a key priority for the state, doing whatever it can to reduce the risks brought about by the global pandemic.
The number of the traditional cash transfer moved from about 200,000 to 1.3 million families, where they're getting 2,000 shillings at the end of every month. And these are basically the elderly, the severely disabled, and orphan families.
Whether it is the monthly 8,000 shillings for the elderly or the weekly stipend for poor households, this money has been largely well received.
Kazi yangu ni kukojea hiyo pesa naendea dawa zingine. Imenisaidia sana. Kama ni soko, mimi huendea matunda na hiyo pesa.
Hiyo pesa ni ya ukweli na inatumwa kwa simu ya mtu na jina yako na kitambulisho yako. Kwa hivyo hakuna mahali inapitia kwangu au kwa mwingine, inapitia kwako kwa simu yako direct.
But amid the jubilation, sustaining the programs is taking a toll on the country's revenue pool.
We are to allocate 10 billion Kenyan shilling to support additional set of vulnerable people. And they are mainly people, quite a number of them, are people living within the urban centers, in the informal settlements. The informal, the slum economy could no longer hold.
In the larger central region alone, up to 362,000 individuals have been registered for the stipend program, translating to 980,000 dependents, according to the Regional Commissioner Wilfred Nyagwanga.
That's just the first part of team coverage. Back to you, Ken Mijungu in Nairobi.
Well, thanks, Melita Oletenges. And team coverage continues after the short break. Olive Barrows is still here, and also Alex Mwangi looking at SGR and the debt burden. And I will also be showing you the Kenyatta budgets over the years. That's from 2013 to 2020, if we can anticipate. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Who wants to answer? Mary?
Mary has a toothache.
Oh, I see. And who knows why?
Because her tooth is too big.
No, it might be a hole in her tooth called a cavity. That's why I brush twice a day using Colgate.
Imagine this is your tooth and these are food acids that cause cavities. Colgate with calcium and fluoride helps prevent cavities.
Who protects our teeth?
Colgate! For maximum cavity protection.
The risk of illness-causing germs is increasing. It is believed that the coronavirus can remain on surfaces in your home for up to 9 days. Touching infected surfaces is one of the ways in which germs spread. Regularly disinfect your floors, countertops, and kitchen surfaces with bleach. And use an effective toilet cleaner inside and outside your toilet bowl. This message is brought to you by Medifacts, Jig, and Harpic.
My whole life is in my phone.
You in the pollution? Yes, you. Dry throat? Strepsils. Gal in the smoke with a raspy voice? Strepsils. Hello, in the downpour with a scratchy throat? Take Strepsils. Get soothing relief for any throat irritation. Strepsils with its medicinal ingredients will heal the harm done to your throat from external factors. Strepsils. Strepsils for a dry, itchy, raspy, scratchy throat.
Disinfect and protect your home with Jik. Jik kills 99.9% of illness-causing germs. Disinfect floors, kitchen and bathroom surfaces, and wash white clothes, towels, and dishcloths with Jik bleach. Just Jik it.
He first came into national prominence in 1975 as chairman of the Parliamentary Select Committee that probed the brutal murder of Nyandarua North MP in March that year. Elijah Mwangale was born in 1938 in Bungoma. He was appointed Minister for Foreign Affairs, becoming one of the most senior ministers in Moi's government.
Mwangale was brave.
On being elected the third president of Kenya in the general elections of December 2002, in which he defeated Uhuru Kenyatta, Mwai Kibaki replaced Mwangale as special envoy to the Somali peace talks with Ambassador Bethwel Kiplagat.
What comes to your mind when you think of the perfect home for your family? Victory Gardens offers exactly that and much more. Call us today on 0790 300 300 or visit www.optivan.co.ke.
And welcome back to Team Coverage Wednesday. Now, for our discussion on the anticipated unveiling of the budget, next is Olive Barrows with a look at the dimension of the standard gauge railway on the budget. Olive?
Ken, the SGR topic remains a hot potato, and now especially as the COVID-19 pandemic has hit the economy hard, and Kenyans are curious if it will ever break even. At a time when the Treasury CS, Ukur Yatani, is scratching his head on how to finance this budget, he also has to think about tens of billions to pay SGR's operational debts.
Madaraka Express has lost its momentum, the dreaded COVID-19 stopping it cold in its tracks, albeit temporarily. But it's far from the only obstruction in its path. The Budget and Appropriations Committee of the National Assembly sounding the alarm on some 38 billion shillings in pending bills, which could force the operator, China Road and Bridge Corporation, to pull out of the daily operations. Once again, the project's viability is in question.
If you look at the economic situation as it is now, SGR might not be viable. I don't think a project like SGR or a big airport can be viable in a few years. It takes a lot of time.
The cargo transportation business facing violent headwinds. Hauliers and freighters up in arms over requirement that they transport imported cargo aboard the SGR for clearance in Nairobi.
Despite the urge to make the railway line SGR pay for itself, we should not forget about the other smaller people who invested in transport. We don't need to force people to use the service. Chema, charge user. I'm sure you can finish the rest of that.
Several years and close to 600 billion shillings later, many taxpayers still believe they haven't gotten value for money, questioning why the terms of the contract are shrouded in mystery.
This is where my biggest critiques reside, but that is okay, for they are not alone. They are in fellowship with the colonizers who called our railway the Lunatic Express. But those who called it the railway to nowhere did not realize at that time that they were describing this great city of Nairobi.
That's why one reason why SGR has become very controversial, because the terms of the contract are not public. If you, at any time you don't give people information, they come up with conspiracies. They come up with their own rumors. So I think one way to make or to settle the issue of SGR is to make public the contracts under which the money was borrowed, the interest rates, the way it was to be managed after it was transferred to the Kenyan government.
As the Madaraka Express roars on its way, another concern is the huge public debt it's left behind. Is it a result of an insatiable appetite?
The biggest problem we have in this country, in my opinion, is that we are not very good negotiators. So when we come to negotiate for a project, we seem to get the lowest part of the stake. So if we are good negotiators, we probably could have got a good value for the money.
In the harsh light of the post-COVID-19 market, the BIC report cautions that Kenya can no longer afford to prop up the so-called railway to nowhere at the expense of already fledgling businesses.
This debate extends beyond the standard gauge railway, as Alex Mwangi has been finding out. Alex?
Olive, every passing day, the amount each Kenyan owes our lenders is growing. Our total public debt now stands at well over 6.5 trillion shillings, and there could be more if the Treasury is to raise money for this budget. At present, Kenya owes external and internal lenders up to 6.5 trillion shillings. Divide that with a population of 47.6 million, and each Kenyan owes just about 140,000 shillings. But that's not all. According to the Budget and Appropriations Committee, the government will be forced to borrow another 823 billion shillings in the next 1 year to cover the budget shortfall.
We have more loans than we can be able to handle. Most particular people, like the way I had a statement from Treasury comparing us with Japan, which has about 109%. But Japan, most of the loans are in their local currency. and they are given locally. So they can have a homely kind of way of discussing those loans with their own people. Ours is because either in dollars or in other currencies, and even the losses because of the fluctuation can really affect you.
With the prevailing economic situation coming at a time when some of our loans are due, Kenya might be forced to appeal to the good grace of our lenders.
I think about 33% of our debt service actually goes back to China to repay some of our debt. So we really must go back to countries like China that hold a lot of our debt stock and actually renegotiate, some of these debts.
Countries seldom grow without debt. The Budget and Appropriations Committee says the cost of debt financing consumes more money than the development expenditure. Indeed, for every 100 shillings the government raises in tax revenue, about 56 shillings will be spent in settling debt. And that's not all.
At the beginning of the year, the dollar to the Kenya shilling exchange rate was about 100, then it moved to about 102 around March. Now it had gone up to 107, now it's back to around 106. So of course that means that for every dollar of debt that you're holding, it's gone up by 6 shillings, right? So if you have $100 billion of debt, that's 600 million shillings that we've put upon ourselves.
Do you think there's a way of easing the amount of pressure on public debt without raising taxes?
The only way we can reduce that pressure is that we must stimulate local demand. By stimulating local demand, it also means that we grow local private enterprise, we grow the agricultural sector. And the good thing is we have actually found out that as Kenyans, we can actually do a lot of the things we've been importing, right? We've been importing so much, but we realize now when COVID hit and all countries were hoarding certain supplies to themselves, we realize that as a country, we can actually manufacture those locally.
But for a fledgling economy as ours, experts say the only alternative at the moment is to live within our means.
We can actually not borrow ourselves into prosperity.
In the next 1 year, the National Treasury will also be grappling with debt servicing obligations at a staggering 904 billion shillings from the Consolidated Fund, painting a picture of the dire straits the country faces owing to its rising debt burden.
Well, this year's budget could set yet another record, both in terms of the size of the budget allocation as well as the size of the public debt. Back to you, Ken.
All right, thanks, Alex, and to the rest of our team coverage warriors for tonight, Lillian, Kiare, Bridget Oletenges, and of course, we had everyone else who was helping us with this broadcast tonight. And I promised to tell you something about the budget for President Uhuru Kenyatta the last 6 years. I just go over this because it's necessary. The last 7 years has seen, of course, an exponential increase in the growth of capital expenditure. Every time a budget statement is tabled in Parliament, I'll take you back to 2013. At that time, it was about 1.6 trillion shillings. And as at now, the 2019-2020, it stands at about 2.81 trillion shillings. Let's see what happens tomorrow. Will the government balance this delicately now that we have an economy badly battered by the pandemic, or they will actually increase it to 3 trillion shillings? That tomorrow. And of course, NTV has a wall-to-wall coverage of the budget reading tomorrow from the Parliament buildings. Now, with the allocations to his office slashed by nearly half, Deputy President William Ruto will not only have to reduce his travel considerably, but also serve less tea to the delegation he hosts at his residence. In your Daily Nation tomorrow, read about the tough balancing act for the National Treasury Cabinet Secretary, that's Ukuri Yatani, as he tactfully shares the shrinking national pie. Plus, tomorrow, we have the COVID-19 also on the headlines. The patients who do not have symptoms will be required to recover from home, but under very strict measures rolled out by the government. So we have all those headlining your Daily Nation tomorrow. Make sure you grab a copy tomorrow morning, or about 12 midnight, they'll be out on the streets if you are essential service. Now, let's move on. The embattled Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru has filed a petition to suspend any resolution passed or made over her impeachment. The governor also wants the court to declare the impeachment proceedings carried out by the Kirinyaga County Assembly null and void after they ignored a reprieve order by Justice Korir that was posted on the 7th of April. Waiguru had in April moved to court where she obtained temporary orders to stop her impeachment. High Court Judge Justice Korir argued that the current COVID-19 pandemic pandemic would violate her constitutional rights to a fair hearing. And elsewhere in court, that's in Kiambu, court has ordered the Directorate of Criminal Investigations to release 3 executive cars back to the former Sports Cabinet Secretary, Rashid Echesa. Senior Principal Magistrate Stella Atambo ordered the release of a Mercedes-Benz, a Ford Ranger and a Toyota Lexus that were confiscated in February without a court order. Echesa, who was in court today, is facing fraud-related charges over his involvement in a 40 billion shilling military equipment saga. All right, let's see if the courts comply. And elsewhere, this is a story that you've seen on social media. A 21-year-old woman, that's Mercy Cherono, is nursing injuries at a sub-county hospital in Nakuru County after a police officer assaulted her. Now, Cherono, whose video has gone viral on social media, shows her arms tied with a rope and dragged with a motorbike by the officer along a pathway in full glare of the public. Now, she suffered, as expected, a broken leg, a soft tissue injury on her right hand in the incident. She was dragged for about 200 meters before residents intervened. It is alleged that the police officer is attached to the Olenguruoni, I beg your pardon, police station. According to Cherono, the police officer suspected her of stealing a gas cylinder, a TV set, and clothes from him.
Ni vizuri watu wapike ama serikali apeleke kotini aongeleshwe. Na hiyo askari alikuwa anapika mtoto, ni askari gani? Alifundishwa achapwe mtoto huu.
Alivunjika mifupa mwili katika mguu wa kulia. Hiyo mifupa sisi tunaita tibia na fibula, na mama alihudumiwa vizuri, aliwekewa plaster na yuko katika hali nzuri, na tayari tumeshampatia ruhusa aende nyumbani.
All right, very unfortunate indeed. And news just then is that IPOA have launched investigations into that incident. So we hope that it will be resolved pretty soon and quick recovery to Cherono. All right, time now for another short break, but we still have business and sports when we come back. Stay with us.
For a better tomorrow, don't forget to do the 1, 2, 3 with Colgate every night.
Can you tell Kijungu to come to my office immediately? Good morning. Good morning. Mimi sipendi unapanguza floor. Hiyo dust uache hapa kwa meza. Clean up. This is a problem, eh? Next time, uende ununue selector yako, utengeneze sandwich zako, uachane na sandwich za boss.
Selector. The difference is in the taste.
Hii uende weke kwa ile githeri yako, eh?
Selena! Toto, where is mommy? Today's a toilet day. What? Oh.
Selena!
Toilet day?
Tomorrow we're hosting a party and it's a matter of my reputation.
It's a toilet, not a white shirt. Even if you spend your entire day cleaning with bleach and detergent, it still won't be party ready.
Impossible.
Challenge. Harpic 10X. Even if you use bleach and detergent 10 times, they won't give you the same sparkling clean toilet that Harpic 10X will give you.
Wow!
Harpic 10X. Harpic, Kenya's #1 toilet cleaner.
Wa Kenya, hii fight hatukuchagua, lakini tuko na choice. Tuchague kujilinda. Tuchague kuprotect familia zetu. Tuchague usafi. Kuosha mikono. Kuosha manyumba zetu. Ndio tulinde watoto wetu. Na tuvae mask. Future yetu iko mikononi mwetu. Kenya, let's do it for the ones we love.
The Kenya Film Commission is glad to announce that the 3rd edition of My Kenya, My Story mobile phone film competition received over 250 submissions. The call for submissions closed on the 3rd of June 2020. From the submissions, 20 top films will be shortlisted for public voting. You are encouraged to watch and vote for your favorite short film, which will be done by the Kenya Film Commission YouTube platform. The winner of Best Short Film will walk away with 200,000 shillings, while the first and second runners-up will receive 150,000 shillings and 100,000 shillings respectively. Voting runs from the 16th of June 2020 through to the 26th of June 2020. The winners will be announced on the 30th of June 2020. Kenya Film Commission. Film Kenya. Capture Africa.
All right, time now to make sense of these cents. Kenya continues to grapple with the fight to seal revenue leakages with counterfeit products in the market, now costing the country over 100 billion shillings in revenue annually. In a new report, the Anti-Counterfeit Authority says the government revenue loss in 2018 stood at 103 billion shillings, up from 101.23 billion shillings back in 2017. Now, the total volume of illicit trade stood at 726 billion shillings. That's in 2017 and increased to 826 billion shillings in 2018. Now, the construction and mining industry was the top most affected by illicit trade. Counterfeit food, beverage, and non-alcoholic drinks continue seeping into the market, accounting for 23% of revenue loss. The textile and apparel accounted for 20% of all revenue lost.
What the government lost in terms of revenue is several times bigger than the ministry, the annual budget of the Ministry of Industrialization, Trade and Enterprise Development.
The people who are involved in this indeed are not governments. It is individual criminals. And therefore, as a country, we continue to partner with our sister neighbors to ensure that we take care of our borders.
Away from that, Safaricom Chief Financial Officer, that's Satish Kamath, has been appointed to the role of Chief Financial Officer Vodafone Business, effective the 1st of July this year. This means Safaricom will be recruiting for a new Chief Financial Officer in the month ahead. As Satish winds up his 4 years at the telecommunication giant, Satish Kamath has been pivotal in the completion and acquisition of the M-Pesa joint venture from Vodafone and the purchase of critical spectrum for the telecommunication company. Satish also assumed broader responsibilities in navigating Safaricom through the phase when the late Bob Collymore was sick and was on medical leave, and through the transition thereafter. And the International Air Transport Association estimates that losses in the aviation industry in 2020 will exceed $84 billion, stating that there is no comparison for the dimension of the crisis occasioned by COVID-19 pandemic. IATA says it strongly supports the International Civil Aviation Organization's plan to restart aviation. IATA also says that the shutdown of the aviation industry in March was disorderly and is hoping for a smoother route back to business. Currently, international air travel is largely restricted except for cargo planes. Now, will-be passengers are also hesitant to travel abroad, given that some may be forced to take up the burden of paying for their quarantine at their destination. IATA had last year predicted that the global airline industry in 2020 will make a net profit of $29.3 billion, but now that projection has swung by more than 2 times in the opposite direction. And almost all sectors of the economy have been hard hit, but not like the aviation industry. As the country continues to step up the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic, Reckitt Benckiser Group has allocated 233 million shillings worth of Dettol soap and Jik bleach for the support of people living with HIV across Africa by partnering with UNAIDS and the initiative that will distribute the hygiene packs as part of its fight for the access of funds, which aims to improve access to health, hygiene and nutrition for all. UNAIDS say that support comes at a timely moment when there is need to accelerate the global response to the COVID-19 pandemic.
In the wake of the pandemic, People living with HIV are the ones that will be most affected in terms of stigmatization, as well as having actually access to the quality product that we're talking about, the hygiene product that we're talking about.
Well, that's business, but let's take a look at the financials.
NTV Financial Report in association with PesaLink.
Do your gums hurt? Yeah. Does your toothpaste contain sage, eucalyptus, myrrh, chamomile? All that in one toothpaste? Yes, try Colgate Herbal. Colgate Herbal contains nature's best herbs and Colgate's fluoride technology to give you strong teeth and healthy gums. Ah, Colgate Herbal. Let's go. Colgate Herbal for strong teeth and healthy gums naturally.
The Governor of Kakamega County, His Excellency Wycliffe Ambetsa Oparanya, is pleased to notify property owners within Kakamega County of his decision to extend a 100% waiver on penalties and interest arising from any accrued and unpaid land rates within Kakamega County. The waiver has been extended from 1st June to 31st August 2020. Take advantage of this waiver period to clear all your outstanding arrears. Please take note that the county government will institute all necessary measures, including repossession of the property upon the end of the waiver period. For more details, visit our county revenue offices or website www.kakamega.go.ke. Kakamega County, the green jewel.
Explorers of the night, wale wase wa kuhustle usiku, kustreama movies, music mix diehards, and gaming fanatics. We've heard you. It is now your time to fly your flag high. Do what you love, mpaka che na Telkom. Join Usiku Sako with Telkom night bundles that allow you rule the night at prices you love. Join our tribe, Usiku Sako Squad. Just dial *544# from your Telkom line and select the night bundle of your dreams. You are the legend the night needs.
On the 12th of June, The Edge magazine will be published with a focus on sustainable and livable cities. Get your copy and find out more about the role of reliable energy and water supply for life, jobs and businesses. To advertise in The Edge, contact Alex on 0723 22 3266 or email awkamau@ke.nationmedia.com. The Edge, proudly brought to you by the Business Daily.
Business Daily. More possibilities.
Well, we apologize for our financial reports on business. Let's move on. National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi has barred parliamentary parties from removing independently elected legislators and lawmakers from non-parliamentary parties from House committees. Now, Muturi's ruling comes after Ugenya legislator, that's David Ochieng, requested the Speaker to clarify on the matter after facing expulsion from a committee by ODM despite not being a member of that party.
Speaker of the House Justin Muturi has invalidated the removal notice issued by Minority Whip Junet Mohamed to Ugenya MP David Ochieng from the Departmental Committee on Health, terming it erroneous, misleading and misapplication of standing orders. In his ruling, Muturi argued that no parliamentary party can remove a member who is not affiliated to a particular political party from a House committee. Muturi says every lawmaker is entitled to at least one of the 622 slots for sharing in committees.
MDG party, to which I belong, is not part of the NASA coalition, neither are we affiliated to it. And therefore,
ODM or NASA for that matter, would not purport to have given me or donated a committee to me. And he said it was wrongful for somebody to even think that they could donate a committee to a member of parliament. The whipping was largely about, they knew that they were very weak on the law, they are very weak on the fact, but it's about smear. Yeah, that the politics now is like anybody against Ruto is being the whip. So if once we see the whipping him, people will think or will imagine that he's also part of the Ruto team. I mean, that is very wrong. This is the madness of big political parties. And in this case, someone thinking that because I come from Nyanza and they are big in Nyanza, then they can bully me. I mean, if you don't bully David Ochieng.
The current purge in Parliament has seen several committee chairpersons, their deputies, and official members on the chopping block after their parties charged them with being disloyal.
The brazen manner in which it's being carried out, that will drive the tractor right inside you and your compound if you don't toe the line, portends anarchy for democracy in this country. It takes us back to 88, when ministers used to kneel down before Oloaringo or Kiki Amayo because they feared they'll be sacked or they feared losing their seats.
This is another big win for Ochieng, having defeated the ODM party twice in the Ugenya parliamentary election and by-election, despite the region being a stronghold of ODM leader Raila Odinga.
I admire him. I like his politics. I also think that part of his duty, to us, in my opinion, is to allow us to also live our dreams in politics. The lives we lead, Vincent. People should take away things from you like political seats, the positions you hold in life, but they should never take away your conscience.
Vincent Odur, NTV.
Now, Kenya has a total of 46,639 street children and families. The Ministry of Labour and Social Protection today launched the National Street Families Census report that seeks to understand the number of families and individuals living on the streets on different towns or in different towns in the country.
The fund that was launched on 11th March 2003 coordinates efforts to rehabilitate in partnership with partner institutions at both national and county level. The information will go a long way in helping the fund mobilize for funds and channel the funds and other resources in assisting street families. Data from the census report carried out in 2018 could perhaps help in mobilizing and channeling funds and other resources to assist street families. The COVID-19 pandemic has seen an increase in the number of street children and families flooding major towns in the country to eke out a living. If you drive into Nairobi's central business district, you will spot street children with pieces of cloth ready to clean your vehicle at a small fee. Money that may put bread on the table by dusk. With this being the first street family census conducted in the country, the ministry says that the issue still remains to be a thorn in the flesh.
It's a persistent problem that is fueled by a number of factors, the main one being urbanization and rural-urban migration, particularly in developing countries.
The number of street children in the country stands at 46,639. Out of this number, 72.4% are male and 27.6% are female. The ministry noted that most of the street children who had attained a certain level of education either dropped out of school due to lack of school fees and support to further their education, while others had no formal education. Out of the given number, those who had no education were 7,786. Out of those, 60.9% being male and 39.1% being female. Those who had basic primary education were 31,976, 74.2% being male and 25.6% being female. Those who attained education above primary level were 6,877, 96.8% being male and 23.7% being female. The ministry also says there are two categories of street families: those who are engaged in economic activities but mostly go home, and those who live on the streets. The number of street persons living with parents in the streets are 10,582, 81.1% being male and 18.9% being female. Those not living with parents in the streets are 36,057, 69.8% being male and 30.2% being female.
Factors that push children into living and working on the street include then poverty, deaths of parents, separation, divorce of parents, abandonment, mistreatment by parents or relatives, tribal displacement, inadequate food at home, getting lost during traveling for fear of being reprimanded, corporal punishment, domestic violence, among others.
According to the report, several factors such as fear of corporal punishment, lack of school fees, mistreatment by relatives, death of parents and domestic violence have led to the increased number of street children across the country.
The ministry says in order to manage the increasing number of street families, the society ought to actively participate in solutions to problems facing families. Helen Aura, NTV.
All right, 3 minutes past the top of the hour. Ida Waringa is already in studio with the sports. Stay with us.
At Stima Sacco, we are a reflection of you. We are a stable, financially sound institution providing tailor-made services to add value to your life, time and money. We are guided by your aspiration. We are Stima Sacco, a true reflection of you.
Applications are ongoing for the June and September 2020 programs for diploma, bachelor's, master's and PhDs in all our campuses with online classes available. Prevent the spread of COVID-19 by following the government health guidelines. The University of Nairobi is a world-class university committed to scholarly excellence.
This new pack is available in all leading supermarkets and outlets. It's still the same flour. Pembe yangu ni poa.
On the 12th of June, The Edge magazine will be published with a focus on sustainable and livable cities. Get your copy and find out more about the role of reliable energy and water supply for life, jobs and businesses. To advertise in The Edge, contact Alex on 0723 22 3266 or email awkamau@ke.nationmedia.com. The Edge, proudly brought to you by the Business Daily.
Business Daily. More possibilities.
He first came into national prominence in 1975 as chairman of the Parliamentary Select Committee that probed the brutal murder of Nyandarua North MP in March that year. Elijah Mwangale was born in 1938 in Bungoma. He was appointed Minister for Foreign Affairs, becoming one of the most senior ministers in Moi's government.
Mwangale was brave.
On being elected the third president of Kenya in the general elections of December 2002, in which he defeated Uhuru Kenyatta, Mwai Kibaki replaced Mwangale as special envoy to the Somali peace talks with Ambassador Bethwel Kiplagat.
What comes to your mind when you think of the perfect home for your family? Victory Gardens offers exactly that and much more. Call us today on 0790 300 300 or visit www.optiven.co.ke.
Good evening. Let's get right into it. Women's world marathon record holder Bridget Kosgei eyes Olympics gold and possibly another world record amid disturbance of her training schedule by the coronavirus pandemic. Now, our reporter Steve Keter brings us details on just how the Chicago Marathon champion balances her training and family time in Eldoret.
We find Bridget Kosgei at her home, deep inside the palatial Elgon View estate in Eldoret, ready to go for her fitness run. Although she admits that she does not push herself too hard nowadays as she trains amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, her focus is still to stay on top of her game.
I was very, very happy when I break a world record during Chicago. And then now I was not losing hope. I still continue to try my best again to retain my record or to lower a little bit.
Bridget also has her eyes focused on the ultimate prize of any athlete, an Olympics gold medal.
I want to represent my Kenya, and I want to bring gold.
As a professional athlete, Bridget used to spend most of her time at her campsite training base, several kilometers away from her family in Eldoret. With social distancing measures in place due to the coronavirus, aside from training to keep fit, she is enjoying priceless family time.
We relax with the family, kids, we enjoy, and we do other things like cultivating the land. We plant potatoes there.
Solo training is a challenge, but Bridget has a message of encouragement for fellow athletes.
Don't sleep because everything is tough. You just train slowly, but not to push, so that when everything is okay, we will continue so that we will not get injury.
With most races cancelled and others postponed, most athletes continue training in isolation, with eyes focused on the closest possible competitions and the emerging virtual races. Gabriel Kudaka, NTV Sports.
Wonderful tag team there. Story by Steve Keter and, of course, voiced by Gabriel Kudaka. Let's move on. Bayer Leverkusen beat lowly Saarbrücken 3-0 away on Tuesday night to reach next month's German Cup final and bring the fairy tale run of the 4th division side to a jolting end. 2 goals inside the opening 20 minutes swiftly ended the home side's hopes as top-flight Leverkusen advanced to the July 4th Colin Kaepernick. Now, almost 4 years ago, the then San Francisco quarterback took a knee as the national anthem was played during an NFL preseason game. His silent protest, however, over racism saw him start just 11 NFL games in 2016, and he was jeered throughout. Kaepernick has not played a single NFL game since 2017. The NFL change of heart has come after protests over racism boiled over in the U.S. and across the globe due to the death of American George Floyd on 25th May in Minneapolis at the hands of the police. The global sports fraternity hasn't been left behind, with numerous sporting stars from different disciplines adding their voice. It now remains to be seen whether the NFL will walk that talk. Well, 2 Russian cosmonauts aboard the International Space Station faced a chess champion on Earth in a game broadcast live and that ended in a draw. Equipped with a tablet as a chessboard, Anatoly Ivanishin and Ivan Wagner played in zero gravity, how cool is that, against the great international master Sergei Karyakin, who was at the Space Museum in Moscow. Well, the game broadcast on the YouTube channel of the Russian Space Agency ended after about 25 minutes in a draw. This game was being held on the 50th anniversary of the first such game between Earth and space that incident.
Playing chess right up there and down here on Earth, but landed in a draw, and that's where we end NTV tonight. Thanks for watching. Thanks to Flora Atieno for sign language interpretation tonight. Of course, Holly Barrows will be here tomorrow on NTV tonight. My name is Ken Mijungu. Enjoy the rest of your evening and make sure you still continue observing the coronavirus or COVID-19 guidelines. Good night.
This is NTV.
I help women find independence by training them in fish farming. It's tough on my back, joints, and can cause headaches. Panadol Extra relieves multiple types of pain. If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
Our guest today is the first Kenyan fashion designer to be featured in Vogue magazine.
Hand wash was getting sold out, sanitizers were getting sold out, masks were getting sold out, and then I'm like, what about the people that live in Kibera? Right now, we're giving out like more than 7,000 for free, all for free. Maybe in Runda there, you had gone to dance somewhere, and then somebody's phone get lost. The first people are like, yo, this guy from Kibera.
He first came into national prominence in 1975 as chairman of the Parliamentary Select Committee that probed the brutal murder of Nyandarua North MP in March that year. Elijah Mwangale was born in 1938 in Bungoma. He was appointed Minister for Foreign Affairs, becoming one of the most senior ministers in Moi's government.
Mwangale was brave.
On being elected the third president of Kenya in the general elections of December 2002, in which he defeated Uhuru Kenyatta, Mwai Kibaki replaced Mwangale as special envoy to the Somali peace talks with Ambassador Bethwell Kiplagat.
What comes to your mind when you